Mr. MBE, let me get it right.
My mum offered me to buy a property with her when I was like 17. It was right next to Westminster Bridge. You literally could come out and within 5 minutes you could see Big Ben. Now you can't buy in that area for no less than maybe 600,000 or 700,000.
So question for you, bearing in mind you're around successful music artists, you're successful in that space as well. Culturally wise, a lot of people about a big chain, I'm gonna buy the most fancy car. Why was it still important for you to actually invest in assets?
My funders, who are like London Marathon Trust, Football Foundation, Big Lottery, Sport England, British Cycling, all those kind of guys would then put their money together to match fund my 7, which will now be 2.4. Then I can build 2 facilities in Croydon and imitate what I did in Peckham.
You've received multiple accolades throughout your career.
Correct, yeah.
What is the one that means the most to you? Welcome back to another episode of the PBK podcast. Now, each and every week we bring you an amazing guest. This week we said we're going to mix it up a little bit. I've got my friend Michael Kazy. How you doing, sir?
I am here, live and direct.
Oh, I got to correct that, Mr. MBE. Let me get it right.
Yeah, Mr. MBE, Mr. CK Flash.
Mr. CK Flash. So a lot of people know you as just CK Flash.
Yeah, CK
That's
Flash,
what they know
the
you
DJ.
as.
Yeah, that's right.
Or they know you as founder of the Cuden BMX track. 2000 and what year?
2004. 21 years.
21
young
years.
People.
So I wanted to get you on board because funnily enough, I actually had a session with one of your, one of your proteges that you've taken to the Olympics.
Correct.
Done some amazing things when he was looking at joining a community. And I said, you know what? There's so many ways that people can help, influence and inspire.
Correct.
And you've done that across the board throughout your career.
Yeah, definitely. I've done I think mainly because of my music career and helping, well, they're older now, but they were young at the time.
And that's what I wanted to talk about, because before we get into your interest in property and what you do there, before we even get into helping Olympians, before we even get into helping the youth at that stage, I think people really need to understand who CK Flash is.
CK Flash is a guy that wants to improve lives if I want to improve myself and help people to get up onto the ladder, if it's in property, if it's in life, if it's in a hard place to reach where they need to have a bit of advice, just to help them to get to next levels. All the experience that I had as somebody helping me to understand about, presenting, playing music, working in an environment, working in a corporate environment. I've been to Meghan and Harry's wedding. I've got the MBE from the Queen. So many environments where, a lot of people maybe get into a corner where they feel that they're very, they need to express themselves. But sometimes it's about just listening, keep calm, and just execute as it goes along.
And I think that's it. People want to see people that have actually been there and done it. People that have walked the walk, people that can talk the talk. Because people hear, DJ, and they think, my mate's a DJ. But I need to hear the pedigree. Like, where did you, your brother, talk to me about your come up in the space? Yeah,
I think with me, I had a really, it was good the way I was brought up with my mum, because my mum worked 7 days a week. So and I didn't realize till you get older, you just think mum's at home cooking food on the table, but she came here in the Windrush era, but she was a night nurse for like 4 or 5 days of the week. And then the 5th day when she came home, she went and had a market stall in a market called Lambeth Walk, which was back in the day in Kennington. It's a bit like the Cut or East Street.
I think my dad had a market stall there as well.
Yeah, we might have. They
might have known each other.
So yeah, she had that. So we always knew about graft, and then I used to help her with that. And then obviously my brothers have always been in music. So my older brother, they call him Wizard, and he's a guy that engineers a lot of those top Jamaican tunes from Beanie Man and all those guys when they come to England in Jetstar and other studios that he worked in. And then he passed it on to my other brother, who became a DJ, a very popular radio DJ by the name of Commander B, who was on Choice FM. Produced and had a studio with all the top artists like Wiley, like Lethal B, like Jammer and all those guys who was there, Kano. He had a studio he built. And then he used to play the music on the radio. So he's always been famous and always been out there. And then came me, who kind of was on a different path, riding BMX, Brixton Skate Park, took to a few races, and then I chose that as my hobby. And I also worked as a kart instructor, go-karts instructor for many years. And when the BMXing never made it to the Olympics in my time, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and join my brother, become a DJ and see how it works from there. And then my brother showed me the ropes, a lot of training on how to present, how to talk on radio, how to play music.
What radio station were you at?
That was Choice FM. Choice FM.
No, I just had to let them know. Choice FM for the youngers, by the way.
Yeah.
That's Capital Extra now equivalent kind of what it was.
Capital Extra. And also it was the only black owned station in England, really. That was the only fully black owned station. And I was on drive time, and I was about just promoting a lot of the UK artists. And that was what I was mainly about. That's what made me shoot up the ranks very quickly, because I found that on that station they were playing a lot of R&B, which is what they would do, you know, Choice FM, R&B, this, that and the other. And they did play a few English artists, but they weren't really into the kind of grimy English music. It never had its sound. It wasn't recognized yet.
Obviously, I'm a bit young, but I remember listening to music to start with. Like, my earliest memory of music was all American.
Yeah.
That's what, like, primary school, like, whether it was anything, whether it's the primary school, like the end of year primary school dance, wherever it is, people's birthdays, everything was American. And it was only really sort of, 2000 and like early 2000s that you really started to people really embraced the UK music.
Yeah, and that's where me and my brother came in very hard, because obviously it was out on the radio. Everybody was trying to get their what you call their bus in the music scene. And then my brother, when he was getting me into it, he just said little things. You know, when you're talking in Johnny, he goes, boy, the only way you can bust when you're in the music scene is obviously play music good, but if you help people, then it would make you bust even quicker. And that resonated with me, because I was always about helping young people achieve their dreams. If it was in the go-karting, I was coaching in that for many years from the age of 13, 14. And then the BMX, and I was always helpful, because my mum was on a market stall and she had a job and she was always helping people. So I think I came from that background where our family's about helping and uplifting people. So the music scene and everything else, just when it came, I just started going to the clubs to DJ. And if I saw talent, because obviously I'm Commander B's brother, I just like, bruv, you need to play these youths, because this sounds good. Because when we DJ, we're like headline DJs, because people know CK Flash comes on, the dance is going to get turned over. So I'm that kind of DJ. I don't play boring music. I don't play mediocre. I just go all in. And you could ask, you know, Heartless Crew or any of those guys, when I was playing back to back with them, they know that I'm going to go for it as well, which is, you know, and Rampage and those guys. So when I heard music that was right, I would say, yo, you need to get on the radio, man. And then I'd bring them to my brother, like So Solid. I'd bring them in. And then after that, you had Sticky and Miss Dynamite. And then you had Lethal B, who met my brother through the studios. And it just all came together. And
I'm right in saying like that with So Solid, they actually gave you your flowers recently, or you and your brother, saying that, you know, you really helped transcend them from where they were in a club scene, very localized, to actually getting them the spotlight to being nationally and even globally known artists. Yeah,
correct. And I was really appreciated for that. They gave us a plaque and brought them to their, I think it was their 20-year or anniversary. Yeah, and they brought us on stage, and they said it on stage. They said, you know, there would be no Solid if it wasn't for these two guys opening those doors so many years ago.
And one of the reasons, like, I wanted to get people, like, and obviously you do some amazing stuff in property, which for my property people, don't worry, we're gonna get there. But sometimes you gotta warm the pot. You gotta make sure that you understand what's cooking before we get to the, you know what I mean, the real meat and potatoes of the conversation. But the reason I think that's important and telling stories like this is because a lot of stuff isn't about the business. It's about the mentality behind the business. If you have an abundance mentality that more is better, collaboration is going to be helpful. Like, if I help somebody, it's not going to take money out of my pocket. If anything, we're just going to earn together. You're going to see that having that ethos, that mentality really helps, not just further you, but the people around you, and you feel better about yourself as well.
Yeah, correct. I feel that a lot of people are, and this is the same thing in the music industry. When we was in it, we were just opening the floodgates, and we just used to just open it, and it came in our favor, because the ones that we were opening the floodgates were going national #1. So Solid went national #1. Miss Dynamite, you would know that she done what she did. Wiley done what he did. Dizzy done what he did. There was a clash with Asher D and Dizzy with my brother that sold thousands of records. Hey, listen, that was a radio show.
Up till now, I still promise you. See, even if you weren't really like old school rap, old school garage, all of this, like go back, because I was telling you, like, I promise that Dizzy versus Asher, if you would have told me like 5, 6, maybe 7 years, I promise you I could have word for worded Asher D's part of it.
A fight almost broke out in the studio, funny enough. So it was heated, but I think because my brother is an elder, they both sides, they clashed, but they knew they had to respect Commander and deal with that, you know what I mean? But like I said, I was the younger coming through. BMX racing, I went all around the world racing BMX. I really enjoyed it. It opened my eyes up to different areas, different parts of the country that I thought, wow, this is great. And it kind of changes your mentality when you go out of London to Birmingham, Nottingham, Scotland, Holland, France. You're racing this bike and you're thinking, you know, with all this tough attitude around the local areas, it's not right. It's not saying it's not right, but
there's more than more than your postcode. There's more than there's more in this world. The world has so much to it that you've got to broaden those horizons.
That shaped me a lot, and then obviously that helped me to shape what I do with people that need help or in the community.
No, amazing. So obviously you've like massively excelled in the music space. Obviously in terms of your personal career, in terms of the BMXing and riding the bikes, you were great at. Now, when it comes to fast forward for your success in business, like how much of that do you think comes from actually just seeing a lot more, like being privy to a lot more in terms of what there is in this world?
I think really it's being in the right networks that can really help you. You know, if you're in the wrong networks that ain't doing the right thing or not doing the right business or not telling you the right things so you can go and do the right things, it can hinder you, you know. But I was fortunate when I worked from a young age while going college to the go-kart track. I was open to doing corporate events for KPMG, Coots Bank Account, NatWest, and I had an elder there that was kind of educating on me regarding buying property, investing, what these people do to grow their money. So I was learning that from a young age, but luckily I had a mentor. He doesn't know he was my mentor, but he was. He was like on the radio to me at the racing car track, and he would say, yeah, flick to channel 2. That means that we'd have our own conversation while the other stuff was doing it. Yeah. And we would just talk about stuff, and he would say, this is how they... And then I was very fortunate that my mum offered me to buy a property with her when I was like 17.
Oh, wow.
So she obviously wanted to buy a property. There was no one to buy it with her, but the guy that was signing her up was saying, well, if you put your son on it, by the time he's 18, can buy a property, not knowing that my friend at my workplace was kind of pushing me to buy property, like buy something. So when she asked, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew it was the right thing.
But that's the importance of having conversations, and I think actually actively and proactively going out to seek information. Correct. Because you're talking to your friend at the workplace, it's now, okay, that's something actually that makes sense when mum brings it up.
Yeah.
But if you weren't having those conversations, if mum raised it and you're just thinking, I just want to go on holiday, I just want to do X, Y, or Z, it's very easy to miss your blessings, like and miss that luck. And we always talk about luck doesn't happen by accident. Luck happens by going out there, being proactive and creating it for yourself.
Yeah.
So what was that first property? What did it look like?
That property was an estate property.
Yeah.
But luckily it was on a corner of the estate that was nice.
Okay.
And downstairs, which was about maybe 10 steps down, I had the first, you know, you could hire the garages. If you had garages downstairs, I had the first 3 garages in a row. Okay. So it was like I bought a house, but with the garages, you know what I mean? So what happened, I had the first garage, then my dad had his garage, but then him and my mum split up. So I took over that garage. And then I got the next garage next to that. So we had my mum's stuff, I had my car, and then I had a garage for records. I had all my brother's records and I shelved it out. So that was a nice house. And it was a nice upbringing. Funny enough, it was right next to Westminster Bridge.
Oh, wow.
So you literally could come out and within 5 minutes, you could see Big Ben. You saw the Millennium when it happened. And it was a good era. Now, you can't buy in that era for no less than maybe 600,000 or 700,000 for
if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, yeah.
You're lucky if that comes with a sink as well.
Yeah. So that was good. So I had that, and then obviously I went on from there. I went on to buy more property and just scale up little by little. I didn't go mad, but it was steady, and I was able to keep buying and selling and keeping and holding, and you have relationships, you buy properties with your partners and stuff like that. And I've never fell out with the partners, so my own partners. It's been touch wood or whatever. Yeah, I've not fallen out. So I was able to still hold on to properties that I bought and hold on to them for a very long time until they all went up.
So question for you, and I always find this interesting, bearing in mind, like, you're around like successful music artists, you're successful in that space as well. Culturally wise, a lot of people are like, I'm just gonna buy the big chain.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy the most fancy car. I'm gonna, maybe spend a lot of money to look rich or to appear even more successful. Why was it still important for you to actually invest in assets? This episode of the podcast is sponsored by the PBK Community. Now, if you're serious about starting or scaling your property portfolio, but you're feeling stuck or feeling like you're running in circles, trust me, I've been there, but listen, you don't have to go it alone. That's why I put together the PBK Community, a space where you get real support, build real connections, and yield real results. Now, we're talking direct access to my power team like lawyers, brokers, architects, and so much more. Bi-weekly Zoom calls with industry pros and template contracts and bespoke tools to make sure you're not wasting time on the wrong moves. And exclusive property deals sourced specifically for members' needs. No fluff, no gimmicks, just support and resources you actually need to level up your property game. This isn't another networking group. It's an elite membership designed for property entrepreneurs who want to be on the inside. We're talking proven systems to streamline your operations, expert-led training to help you work smarter and faster, and a community of like-minded investors. So if you're tired of trying to do it all on your own and you're ready to start implementing the right systems right now, let's book a call with me and my team to chat about how we can make it happen. The link will be in the bio. Now back to the videos. Assets
are not liabilities. And also, I was always a bit different because I remember I said I was traveling the world with BMX. And then when I came into the music scene, I was able to justify what was good, what was not, what made money. I don't know, I just had this thing because I was already world educated and knew what was going on in regarding people making money. So when I go to places, because I came from an athlete mode where I didn't drink, I went to the raves as a DJ with my bottles of water, and people were like, right, don't you want no champagne? And I said, no, man, I'm good, man, I'm good. But I always had the energy to pump the crowd out. And people said, boy, like 5 years later, I saw the guys and they see me. I put a little bit weight on now, but back then I was really cut. And they were like, boy, we should have been drinking the water like CK because he done his thing. So for me, it was just about having that energy and also that focus to stay away from the norm. And that's what I did. It might have been, I was a bit placid, I was a bit quiet. But when I get on the decks or I get on the mic, people say, is that the same guy we was just, do you know what I mean? I just had that switch, which I can switch on any time. And being able to be a presenter regarding learning how to present, how to talk, has opened so many doors for me, that I can say I've been on TV, I've had my own TV show with Maya Jama, with diversity, the radio's just been endless. And I've used that to leverage to promote young people, as you know, in sport. So where I know people on BBC, I know people on Capital Extra, I know all the pirate stations, and they know me, and I've built my platform from back in the day. When they saw me switch to the BMX, everybody was quite shocked, like, how comes he's doing that DJ and he's doing this little BMX bike part thing? But obviously, some liked it, some was like kind of mocking it a little bit, but when you look at it now, it's
one of those things of everything. People say, everyone will look at you and kind of and laugh a little bit or play it down. Or like you said, there's CK with his little bike. And then when it's guy, and they'll be like, they're going to ask you, how did you do it again?
Yeah. How did you do it? And you get people asking me, boy, I wouldn't mind helping you with that. I wouldn't mind, coming in. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, if you want to come in and help, but it's not something that I will push because I said, you're the same ones that were mocking it. But now you see Olympians, £1.2 million track in Peckham. You see that, you know, we're the most successful club in England. We've got TV shows on BBC. We've had a Netflix series. That's a lot to be knowing that I started this from an estate track that was disused, not being used, and I went and turned it around and created some of the fastest riders in the world.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, look, as that kind of message to some of the younger people or people that really struggle with putting themselves out there and think, oh, people are going to laugh, people are going to mock it. Like, the reality is that trying to strive for perfection from day one is impossible. You just have to start with something. And you have to start. And that's the hardest part. Don't worry about the perception. Don't worry about it being perfect. Just start. And we're all a constant work in progress.
Correct. And just be consistent at it. And that's what I did. I just turned up in the weather when it's like this, when it's raining, when it was snowing. Those young people that I started off with that was from South London, they just turned up. And I used to go to DJing and finish at like 5, 6 in the morning. But I would still be at the track at 9 on a Sunday. And I'll be standing there. And they knew, don't be 1 minute late, because they know they were getting 150 press-ups or they'd be getting that. And even in the snow, they would come to the park at Brockwell Park in Brixton and they would look up and they see, is he there? You know, like when you come, he can't be there. And I'll be just standing up the hill. And they'll be running because they say there's 1 minute before he gets up, Nick. I told them, don't be 1 minute late. And that's what made me, made them, the foundation of that made us produce so many champions that there was 1 point, 70% of the Olympic team were all my riders from Peckham BMX. And they all made world finals, if not won the world final. And they were all national and British champions.
And I think, look, like, to kind of relate it back into business and property as well, like, if you're running a business, you create and curate that culture of your business. Correct. So if you're turning up late, everybody else is going to be late. If you kind of do stuff half-assed, last minute, kind of above, don't really look into it, then that's what your team are going to do. That's what the people that work alongside you are going to be. And also that's how you're going to be viewed by potential people that are going to collaborate with you. They're not going to look at you as the person they want to work with. They'll look at you as the person they'll work with if they have to. But they're going to go for the people that always turn up, the people that make sure they put their best foot forward, and the people that are like never late.
Yeah, definitely. With the team thing, you know, like you got to have a good team. And like even Kai's dad, he's been with me from day one. Obviously, he didn't start in BMX, but he learned a lot from me. And now he's one of my main coaches. And obviously, like the admin team, the girls that look after people when they come in. Because obviously, as it grew to where it is now, when we got the track in 2013, that took me like 6 years to get the permission to raise 600,000. And then the council match funded it to 1.2 million. And then we built that track in South London, Burgess Park. That was a big deal, but it got so big, especially after the Olympics, after Kai White got the silver medal. It's like we turned up to the track and there was an extra 100 kids wanting to ride BMX. So for that, I can't run everything. So the team that is there, the coaches that are there, and everybody that's around it, they let it run. But obviously the ethos is my ethos from 14, 15 years ago. They know kind of how I want it run. They run it. I still come in twice a week and basically keep the ethos there and just try and keep everybody happy and make sure that it runs smoothly so we can bring more young kids from the street to the Olympics.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I think that's the thing with employing the right people as well. If you forever just wanted to say, no, this is my thing, I don't want to let anybody else in, your business would only have the capacity of you.
Correct.
Whereas if you bring in the right people, and the right people don't always have to be the most qualified.
Correct.
They don't always have to be the person with the correct, you know, university degree, or the person who's got the right sports science, something in this. The person with the right attitude. Like, you know, I think there's a common saying in business, like you hire for attitude rather than ability a lot of the time. Yeah. And I think that's what you've been able to do and how you've been able to build such a good team.
And it's funny you say that, because we move on to, there's obviously a few aspects to talk about, like the leaving care facility, Safe House, which is what we run for kids who are in care. We're giving them affordable housing to the council, and we're giving them life skills to learn what they need to do when they get out into the real world. And all my staff, as well as being qualified in what we do, they've worked with kids with me for years. So I naturally brought some of them on board because they knew how I worked, we knew how we worked, and they knew I was trying to build something. And when you work with people that know you, work with you, and you understand them and they understand you, we was able to build another successful business that maybe not is the BMX kids, but kids that are more vulnerable, and we could help them to a better place in their life.
And I think that's what, like, I always try and reinstall. Like, look, somebody would look at you and they would say, right, DJ, like public speaker, presenter, like obviously coach, property investor, the care, and they say, oh, that's it. Like, he's ticked the boxes, that he's got, like, you know, that thing I see on Instagram, 7 streams of income. But the reality is, like, it's a domino effect. You were able to set up the care business because you had the right people in place, from the BMX and the coaching and the trap. And I think, you know, we say this almost every week, but if you focus on being like amazing at 1 or 2 things, you'll find that you'll get those complementary businesses and them other opportunities off the back of just being great at something.
Yeah, and the Safe House project, which is, like I said, accommodation for leaving care young people, and down the line we'll be looking to go into CQC and Ofsted. But when we started, I never had a clue what it was. I was in property, and I was looking after a building that was a disused pub, and my friends bought it, and I told them not to buy it because they asked me, because they're out of London, some of them, and I said it's not in a good area. And basically, they got squatters in there and they got gypsies on the land. So they called me, who's the person who can get people together to get these gypsies and squatters out of the building. And then I said to them, it ain't working. Let me try. I've been hearing about this kids thing, and people are saying you already kind of do property and you already look after kids. So those ones that are vulnerable, that are in between, you can maybe house them and help them. But I didn't know. But I just said to myself, let me try this kids thing. You know what I mean? So I came up with the company Safe House, and then because I wasn't used to knowing about the business, I just went full steam ahead. And when we did up the properties, I just went full out. Like, you know, TVs, because I heard they don't give TVs. I gave microwaves, I gave slippers, I gave towels. So when the kids were walking into the room, some of the main comments I was getting from some of the young people, they'd be like, is this all for me? Nobody's ever done this for me. And I'm like, yo, and you know, you try and hold back your tears kind of thing, you know what I mean? Because you're thinking, what kind of life have they been living?
Yeah.
Well, no one ain't even giving them a decent room with a bed sheet or a quilt or no TV. You can't just put them in a room with no TV, no internet, you know what I mean? So I was like, wow. So then I kept on doing it. And then the council started to realize this guy is actually doing these properties for these kids to, like, if we was going to move in there. And there was even a point where one of the social workers goes, did your girlfriend kick you out? I goes, no, why? Because she goes, you got chocolates, you got pens, you got papers. And I was laughing. And then I realized I was doing, but then I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to keep my standards like that, high for the young people. And that's what I get all the time when I see young people coming. And I asked my worker to say, how did they feel when they went into the flat? They goes, wow, this is just amazing. And you see some real horror stories. I'm not going to powder coat it. There were some real horror stories for some of these young people out there that have really been through it. And when they come to someone like me who's willing to still stick by them, I've had ones where I've had to get up at literally 5 a.m. in the morning and take them to the boxing gym so they can let some steam off, and then get them signed up to college and then get them a job. Within 3 weeks, I've done this. But I've took the time. Even though I'm busy, I discipline myself, because I know if I can help that one. And the other day, I can tell you, this week he rang me and he said, thank you for the time you put into me, because I know I was a problem kid. He was breaking doors, he was breaking windows, he was mashing up pool tables in the unit. But I stuck by him. And by sticking by him, he's now on his way to having his first child and on his way to having his property.
That's amazing. And that's the thing, it goes full circle because of, you know, the ethos and the mentality that, you know, your mum installed into you at a young age. And, you know, I think we don't give our, like, parents enough credit. We look at them like when we're young as these just adults that's supposed to know everything. That's right. And then when you think about it, when you get even close to their age or like older than them, you're like, you was really keeping it all together. Correct. Like, just, you was, and now I still feel like a kid. Yeah. And you was doing everything. So you're able to do that. And it's that whole, like, each one, teach one, pay it forward. And you've done that in sort of every element of your career and business.
You'd be surprised what the kids don't know, even to boil a kettle, cook an egg, do a toaster. You'd be surprised what things they've not been taught, because they've just grown up on the street, maybe in gangs, maybe county lines. You teach them and you give them that. It's more than money that you're giving them. You're giving them a lifestyle and a way to move forward.
That's it. And then for you personally, outside of, look, because we've spoken about, the DJ and
Yeah,
the BMX
thing,
the care homes, the safe houses. But then for you personally as well in property, like now, what's your strategy? What are you working on? What do you do outside of all of that? And how do you find time for it?
I think it's all about the teams, first of all. And kind of, you got to know how to let go in business. You know what I mean? Not fully let go, but delegate, basically. And then delegate what you can delegate, and then fine tune it and make sure you're putting all the right cogs together to make sure the people that you're delegating to can produce similar results to you. You're not always going to be perfect, and you're going to make mistakes. And sometimes it's about the people around you that make it happen. And regarding property, I just, like I said to you, we spoke about this. I bought a building. I didn't buy it first. And basically it was a building where I had a nightclub, in South London. And basically,
I know there's going to be some people listening to this saying, what's this man not done?
Yeah.
Now you said nightclub as well.
And I bought the club to help the kids I was working with, because at the time, you know, you've had it in your shisha business and other business. People see you and think it's all rosy, but you do have your ups and downs, and you do have your struggles. You know, you have times where you try and help people, it goes wrong, and you kind of have to stay strong in that point. So I managed to pull some money together. I also borrowed some money, and I bought a club, and it had property upstairs. And basically, that was very successful. But I got an offer where I had somebody that could buy it off me or become partners. So I negotiated to stay partners, and we ended up putting a Tesco's in, and I controlled all the flats upstairs, and basically we just break what we break money-wise. And that led me onto a big relationship with somebody that never knew who I was. They met me there, and normally they say, you know, when we come into these businesses, we normally just take it over, give you your money, and away you go. But as they got into me, I convinced them, listen, let me control it. Let me show you what I can do, and we can run this together, because they couldn't get me out without coming to an agreement. And I ended up getting 9 flats upstairs. Well, nine flats, potentially 6 flats now, 9 bedrooms, HMO, with 6 flats now, what we want to convert into. And then they took care of the Tesco's. But then what happened was, because I dealt with that whole Tesco's transaction, and they saw how I was evolving around them, they said it was the smoothest deal they've ever done. They've never met somebody that they've never met, and it's gone so smooth, so honest, money on the table, money in the bank, everything. So we was all like gelling. And then they found out about the youth work I did. But I don't think they knew how deep it was. And then we had a film on Netflix, which is called One Way Up. We had a whole documentary, and I brought them to the premiere. And they came into the cinema in Peckham, funny enough. And it was like, they goes, oh, so where are we going to watch your movie? Which thingy? And I said, well, it's in there, but we're waiting for these people in the foyer to come and get into the cinema. And he goes, yeah, but what they watching? I said, they're watching our film. Like, they couldn't believe there was thousands of people to go and see our Netflix movie that came on Netflix. So that's when they sat there and they thought, wow, this guy's serious. Do you know what I mean? And I said, I told you, just come. So it's like I was just shocking them. And then I think the next time we had a meeting, when we were looking at other properties and projects to do with Tesco's and stuff, I've got something to tell you. And they came down and they were just drinking their tea. And I said, yeah, well, by the way, I'm going to be given an MBE from the Queen. And it's like they just spilt the tea. They're like, so it was quite funny. So, but these are the things, I don't ask for them. Obviously, people put me forward. And when they see what I've done, they're like, this guy is done blah, 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 blah. And he's still going. So I learned. And then from that, it moved on to investors. It moved on to other acquisitions where I'm in charge of, setting up other pub situations where we build flats upstairs. I'm building like 4 flats for somebody over in Hemel Hempstead with the Tesco's that we've just done downstairs. I've done another pub conversion where Enterprise has gone in, and we're doing the flats upstairs now. And then some of those flats are going towards social housing with young people. So then that's business that has rolled onto me. So I don't need to worry about paying the landlord a deposit, because they're like, CK, just take the properties, you do what you're doing, pay us when you're ready. So that's where I've built my reputation. And then what's happened, it's gone out to other people, because when I go to massive events with their friends, they're like, what is it you do for him? Because he talks about you like, so they're just like, yeah, just give it, whenever he says this, yeah, just give it to CK, he'll sort it out. So from that, I've just got into acquisitions, been able to get into flips very quickly because, you know, they might not can do it. I say, oh, give it to CK. CK might want it. And that's all I've done is flipping, turning, Tescoing, and making my money. And just what I do is obviously if I'm making money, then I'm trying to put it into the community. I've always been like that because people say you can't help yourself unless you help others. So that's what I do. So when I meet people like yourself or Ethan or Jason Patterson and a load of people that know me as CK Flash, but then they know what I'm doing for the community, those guys, I feel, this is what I'm feeling, they're more open to help me. Like, they say, all right, you ain't been in the full property thing full on like us, but rather than tell you to come and join that, like, come in CK. Because I know if you didn't put that time in for our youth while we were doing property, then there may be no BMX track for 300 kids in Peckham or new one in Croydon where all the crime is up. So I know they're like, you don't say it directly, but I know I can feel it. Like, you're like, bruv, just come in.
Yeah.
Yeah?
No, you've earned, like, you know what I mean? You paid your dues. You played your dues in society. But also I think a lot of the time, you know, people buy into people's vibe, the person that they are. So if you just message me on an off chance and just be like, oh, this house I'm looking at in Croydon, I'm going to get you the architect's report and say, no, don't buy that one. And this is why. Yeah. Just because I'm like, okay, you know what? We help each other and realize that down the line, it's not always the now. Like, oh, if I do this for you, you've got to do something for me. You just know that you build relationships over time. Yeah. And at some point, something's going to come of it. And I think when I look at your career history, that's really one of the common denominators, which is collaborative work. Correct. From as a starting point, if you're saying to like, you've seen someone that you think, oh, like, you know what, their music was really good, let me put it on a wider platform. There's no win for you there because it's your brother's show. He's going to get the accolades if they go really well. The artists are people that are going to get, you know, more notoriety and potentially make money. Yeah. The reality is in the short term, there's no win. But in the long term, the win is all about, okay, this is the person that put on for me when he didn't have to. Yeah. And it goes full circle. And that's funny you say that. It works in different ways in music and property because through that contact, I know someone that bought this massive piece of land in Croydon for £5 million. And they've been having troubles with it, like literally for the last 7-8 years. And they're paying like 50 grand interest every month on this land. And they became on a stumbling block. But because I'm networked in that, and Croydon has asked me to build this, you know, £500,000 to £1 million facility in Croydon for the kids again, like what I did in Peckham. One of my contacts around me goes, you're in Croydon. Do you know anybody that could maybe sort this out? Which kind of helps me because the building they're about to build is £68 million and it's going to have 260 flats, story block. But for them to build that, they also need to do the Section 106, which is when Croydon hasn't got money to give me to build the BMX or cycling facility. That development, because I know them and I know the mayor, I was able to bring them to the table. And say, right, you've got to do this Section 106 agreement, which for those who are not familiar, when you're building, basically you've got to give back to the community. It's ineffectively you're paying for the levies and the fact there's going to be more bin men, more lampposts, more everything. But it's a contribution to the local authority. So you said, look, you know what? You don't have the money to give me, but you're also, this scheme is going to give the money. So we can help the scheme, we can get the money, and we can help the children and the youth within the community. So it's a win-win for everybody. That's right. So they would contribute anything between 600 to 700,000, which my funders, who are like London Marathon Trust, Football Foundation, Big Lottery, Sport England, British Cycling, all those kind of guys would then put their money together to match fund my 7, which will now be 2.4. Then I can build 2 facilities in Croydon and imitate what I did in Peckham. And that's what I did the other day recently, which was a kind of magical move. Yeah, no, it is. And that's what it's about, bringing the pieces of the puzzle together. And if we take it like really small, like when people talk about, oh, how do I get into property? How do I get started? Or how do I start any business? Like, you know, if somebody wants to sit down with you, you've got 100 kids at the BMX track, X amount of kids, you know, and obviously you give people your time, but there's only so many hours in a day. Yeah. But if somebody creates a value proposition where they're telling you, oh, do you know what? Like, you know, this thing that you're doing, I can actually help you with X, Y, or Z. Or they see that, oh, you're always like busy. How about I chauffeur you around for the week? And then I can just pick your brain while I'm driving you. Yeah. So I always tell people, like, try and make yourself like of importance or of interest or of value to the person that you want to get around, that you need their help from. Be helpful to be helped.
That's right. You always hear, like you said, be helpful to be helped. And I told this to my little nephew, he's a budding football player, and I'm trying to show him, look, he's 26, 27. He wants to make it to the top. But I said, you know what? I know you love the football thing, but really, I think you could be a good agent because you know so much about football.
When you said little nephew, that you said 26, 27, I said, ooh.
Well, compared to my age anyway, show my age a little bit. But yeah, I tell him, look, get into football agency where I can link you up with people like, you know, Ian Wright and Mark Bright and Tony Figgin, all that Crystal Palace. Like, I know them very well. I know a few other agents. And I was saying, you know, get into that, because if you follow them and do the right thing, then you could become the agent that signs the next, I don't know.
Yeah, the next Saka.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I didn't want to say the wrong one.
People like, that's not the guy now, Saka. Yeah. You know, Saka's the safe one. That's our golden, that's our golden boy.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, I'm always trying to push you. And then, funny enough, the youth that I mentored for the last 20 years in BMX, remember, I've known Kai since he was 3-4, his brother since he was 6. They've been around me all the time. But what I've done slowly, when I see them getting mature, like 14, 15, I've been indirectly mentoring them about property and stuff. So as soon as they got up to their 17, 18, I would play things like Tony Robbins in the minibus. People don't know what I went through to kind of get these young people to where they are without talking about it. Like, we'll be in the minibus, because we never had a track when we first started. We had like a little pump track. I don't know if you know, our track's like 400 meters and the pump track is maybe 150 meters, a little round thing.
Yeah.
But I managed to train them on that to win national titles. But then we used to have to drive in a minibus that someone bought us to another track to get the proper size track every Saturday. But I would play things like Anthony Robbins, but not too high, just enough so it's tickling their ears. And I knew it would work, because when we got back in the bus, a few of them would say, yeah, CK, you know that thing you was playing in the background about, you know, life and commitment and committing, and they say, yeah, could you play that again? So I like to, like with BMX, I like to train people that are being trained but don't know they're being trained.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done with them. Until now, I'm linking them up. Now when they're like 22, 23, I'm opening my big network that I had all the time, but I thought it wasn't the right time for them. I made them achieve their goals, which are national number ones, British champions, world champions, Olympians. And now I'm showing them the other side to me. So Kai, managing him, getting him big endorsements or doubling his endorsements as his agent and his manager with his brother, I was able to show him, right, when you get that big deal, 25% do what you want, 75% you need to invest. But obviously Kai, you know, he wanted to blast out, blaze out, he's a Peckham boy. But then I had to control him and say, look, hold on to that. And with his brother, it helped. And then obviously where I managed him fully 100 and then his brother came in, I said, yeah, let's just work it together, because 2 is better than 1. And he might be able to tell him, listen, behave yourself, let CK deal with this. And I was able to negotiate deals that was maybe 20 grand to 60 grand, deals that were like 15 grand to 40 grand, you know, deals that was, you know, over 100 grand. So I was able to do that. But at the same time, I was able to point them into the right directions, like with Ethan, and like obviously you spoke to Trey as well, to say, right, these are the guys. If you want to be successful, you might not have a lot of money to start with, but with these networks that I'm involved with and you can get involved with, you can get investors, you can do the same. But I said, you must educate yourself first. So when they used to come to me, they just wanted me, like my nephew, want me to walk them in. Oh yeah, CK, just give us the keys to the property. Give us the keys to the money. I'm like, no, I will walk you in, but you need to get educated. So where we invested in a property with one of the guys, I said, this investment I'm giving to you from my people, so they are obviously not paying, but they're getting paid to learn. So they're paid into your project, but you're bringing them in, but you must learn that journey, stand right beside him. So I got Trey and him to stand. So now Trey's able to know square footage, what needs to be done, what's a deal, what's not a deal. So I think it's just time before it actually goes boom for him. But he's got part of the brain that knows about property now.
Yeah.
So that's where I want them to be. They've got to take the education first, like you're doing with your things. to elevate themselves.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And look, when I hear the amount of stuff, because even just then, now we found out you're an agent at this, there's always something. Every time you open me up, we found out about a new accolade, a new something. I'm sure there's going to be so many people that are like, bro, where do we even start with this guy? He's done so much. When you think back, like on your life, like what are some of like, I guess because there's been so many areas, like if we were to talk about music, what's like, or actually, no, let's go through different things. Like as a DJ, what's like one of your most memorable moments for whatever reason?
I think being on Choice FM was a great platform for me.
Because you were before Jenny Francis, was that right?
Yeah, I was on drive time. So I was on Wednesday, Thursday, 4 till 7.
Okay.
And then I was on Saturday. Those were big shows anyway.
Yeah, no, that's headline.
Yeah, headline.
That's
and then
blockbuster.
Saturday I had a show from 3 till 7. So I had like
prime,
crazy
proper
listeners.
prime time.
And I used to bring on the artists. So I would bring on So Solid, and I would bring on maybe like MC Viper from back in the day. But people wouldn't know until I lifted the faders. I said, well, guess who's my guest? Like you doing.
Yeah.
But I would bring in some heavy lows. Some people that wouldn't even match. So I'd bring in Pay As You Go and MC B Live, or, you know, anybody that was from the scene. And then bring in new artists. Sometimes I lift it up and it's a brand new artist, but the song that he's got is crazy. So Choice Film was a big thing for me. And also, I think one big one, I think I was on Heartless Crew's Christmas party.
Yeah.
And I was the host. I've now hosted a few things. I've hosted the first ever Asian Music Awards and also the Garage Awards for Sidewinder. I've hosted those big events. And that one was funny because I was hosting, they'd done a performance, and then I think somebody from Heartless was meant to DJ. And what happened was, we were calling the DJ and the crowd's just standing there still like, what's going on, what's going on? And I said to them, boy, you know what, guys? I did tell them, don't let me put no records on in here tonight because it's going to be a next thing. This time Heartless and Dizzy, and it was Heartless event. So I said, well, I'm just going to take one of my dub plates out and put it on and see what you think. And when the record started, it said, call the police. It's CK Flash and Dizzy Rascal. Oh my God. The place erupted. The place went mad. And it was on the Eskimo rhythm. And you know what Dizzy's like, yeah, that, what? Done. The dance was done. And even Heartless came in and said, boy, CK done the dance. You know what I mean? Crazy. So that was one of my one big highlight. And then outside of that, bringing my presenting skill into it, I was able to present Skyride, which was one of the biggest cycling events in Europe. 300,000 people. I was in Scotland. I had about 18 dates where I'll go around and I'll be on the mic and I'll be interviewing some of the top athletes from England. So they would have me on the stage, I'll be doing the music, I'll be interviewing the athletes, and then when the athletes was off and they were ready for another one, I'll play music for about 20 minutes. Because I'm versatile, I'll play all sorts of songs from garage, jungle, R&B, Barry White, Tom Jones, get the crowd going, talk to the kids. So like when I mean I've been around the clock, and it's been an enjoyable experience, but all my jobs have been fun. And I know now I can take that world and pass it on to others and take my investments and still give back to the community as much as I can. Sometimes I give so much that people say, what do you really get out of that? It feels like you give more than it's given to you. But I said, twice a week, I turn up to my facility or anywhere where I work with kids, and it's a different environment. It's meeting new families, meeting new kids, and it's a bit therapeutic that you can go and do that. And that's what I get out of it. It's not about money.
No, for sure. Another area, I guess, so obviously we spoke about the music side of things. You've received multiple accolades throughout your career.
Correct, yeah.
What is the one that means the most to you?
There's a lot. Like when you walk into my house, I've got loads of accolades from British Cycling Coach of the Year, Legacy Award, Black to Black Award, obviously the MBE from the Queen. That's a big one. People didn't quite understand it because, sometimes they say, boy, you take the MBE, you should take from the Queen. But I'm like, listen, remember, the way I think is somebody has to go through the doors to get back whatever they took from us. That's the way I look at it. So that's what I use that for, because when you say you've got an MBE behind your name, I notice when I walk into the building as a big 6'3" black man walk in, they say, oh yeah, who's he? Yeah, rare. You're in the building. But you see when someone says to him, yeah, you know he's got an MBE in it. Yeah. I've got an MBE, mate. But it makes them understand there's levels to this. Do you understand? So I like that one for that. But community awards, it's endless. I've got loads. I can't even, there's so many, I can't even tell you, Kaz.
I haven't got a favourite, but collectively
community awards mean a lot, because a lot of people from the community select me. And when I go to these awards, it's like people that know what I'm doing. And some people was wondering, what happened to CK? And then they're like, that's what he's been doing. Do you know what I mean? And things like this podcast and everything, exposing everything is great. But the MBE and also being invited to Meghan and Harry's wedding, that was a big one as well. Because when I got invited, and
who was playing there? Idris,
was there, and I got invited to that. I was like, this is serious, because where I was literally in the church at the front. There was only a selective amount of people that was allowed there. I saw people when I was walking the half a mile around the palace to get to that spot. And that was the spot. And I was like, man, I must be doing all right to be invited here. And I had to buy the new shoes and the new suit and the new that. So that,
I hope you got new
great.
shoes for that, please.
Yeah, no, I did. I did have new shoes. I had everything. You know what I mean? Like now I got my new shoes on here. But I think I'll be honest with you. Yeah, that was special. The MB was special. And I think, just everything seems, when I get it, I just feel grateful that I'm able to have gone on that journey. It's a pleasure. And like I said, if I can keep opening doors, keep helping people, and don't burn out.
No, that's it, man. This is amazing. Look, we really appreciate you coming on. I think final words from you, just some advice for aspiring entrepreneurs, property people that are trying to make it in sports, whatever it is, just people that are trying to make it. What words would you have for them?
I would say come with a plan. Stick to the plan. Stay focused. Stay determined to your goal and keep pushing. Long as you do that and stay focused, stick to your plan, keep pushing, and don't let anybody let you turn left. Just keep going straight and be tunnel vision until you get to where you want to go. It will happen. It might take longer than it might take quick. Look at some of these products. Drip, I just heard today, it's been valued at 100 mil, which is Big Zuzi's brand. Big Zuz one, look at Crecton Cone, their journey. That's where they are. Brilliant. Look at Dean Forbes, his journey. That's where he is. So my journey has been way before them, but I'm still going. But all of them has got the same thing in common. They're staying focused, they're staying on their journey, and they're committing to what they need to do.
No, that's it, man. That's amazing advice. Look, last thing, if people want to find you, connect with you, also the new track, when's that? That's obviously pipeline. When's it opening? How can they get down? Let them know.
I'm glad you said that, and I must say, so BMX is obviously the start. Music's there. I'm working on a new thing that's going to be involving motor racing, golf, and a few other sports. That is going to be giving opportunities to young people to get into those areas which may be out of reach because of money. So look out for that. The new track, I reckon it's going to take about another 15 to 18 months. By the time you get through the planning through the councils, I'm building a new pump track where the old pump track is in Peckham. That should be done this year. I've got a new clubhouse at Peckham, main BMX track, which is going to be a 3-story building with a viewing gallery, and then we'll be able to do seminars in there, get you to do seminars, which we normally do. And then, like I said, with the new show that I'm working on, I'm just looking to get people involved, investments involved, people that can sponsor these young people.
And if they want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
That's right. CK/MBE on Instagram.
Perfect.
Just come link me there. You'll see what you need to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm absolutely blown away. TV, radio, presenting, music, motivational, MBE at Meghan Harry's wedding. The list goes on. Owner of, biggest BMX track, taking however many people to the Olympics. I think, you know, the accolades on accolades, we all just want to say thank you for obviously what you've done for the community. Thank you for coming on the podcast. That has been another episode of the PBK podcast. If you've enjoyed it, let us know in the comments, and we'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Peace.